In the black between stars, Andrew Vance's patrol fighter was caught in a perfect pincer. 15 Vren interceptors, 3 squadrons locked on and closing fast. Alarms screamed across his console. 15-to-1 odds, his comms were jammed, weapons outmatched. No evasive pattern could break the net. Through the canopy, the alien ships blotted out the nebula light. Their targeting systems painted him from every angle.
The Concorde says, I can't speak, can't sing, can't make any tonal sound. But they forgot one thing, I can still whistle.
He pursed his lips, and the first clear note of his grandmother's lullaby slipped into the cockpit, then out over the open audio relay channel. Inside the lead Vren fighter, the pilot's eyes flickered, then went blank. Every instrument silently extinguished. One by one, the entire ambush formation lost power. Fighters drifted like dead creatures, no damage, no struggle, just sudden, absolute silence. Andrew's fighter slipped through the paralyzed swarm. He was the only thing still moving under the nebula's cold glow.
They're not dead, just asleep. And when they wake up, they won't remember any of this.
But the Concorde would remember. And they were already racing to find out what turned 3 fleets silent with nothing but a human whistle. 12 hours earlier, the Concorde decree hit every Earth Defense Force terminal. Human music was now illegal in all Concorde space. In Briefing Room Delta, Commander Chen stood beneath the holographic Concorde emblem. Her face matched the cold blue light.
Effective immediately. All human origin music is banned. Performance, broadcast, possession. Violation means hostile action. This comes from the Vren Auditory Council. No exceptions. No appeals.
A tablet slid to Andrew. The Concorde seal glowed on the screen, waiting for his acknowledgement. The order read, "Subject is forbidden from any tonal sound while operating in foreign space." Not a word, not a hum.
They want me completely silent. No pitch, no rhythm, not even a lullaby.
Do you fully understand the terms, Vance? One audible whistle, and the treaty is broken.
Understood, Commander. No tonal emissions. I'll keep my mouth shut.
He didn't know that in 10 hours, 15 Vren squadrons would make that promise impossible to keep. That night, alone in his quarters, Andrew couldn't shake the memory of his grandmother's hands in the earth. Ilara Vance had raised him after his parents were lost. Her voice was the first music he ever knew.
She never sang loud. Just a hum while she worked in the garden. A 4-bar phrase, over and over.
The memory sharpened, sunlight through the leaves, the smell of mint, and the gentle, looping melody.
The ban forbids humming, doesn't it? Any sustained pitch counts, even that.
He could see himself as a boy, cross-legged in the grass, staring up at her.
You hear that, sweet boy? That's the sound of patience. Plants grow to it.
That tune is older than she is. Her grandmother hummed it in a war camp. It's not just music, it's a lifeline.
He pressed the hologram, and the tiny speaker whispered the first 2 bars.
If they take this, they take everything. But I promise to keep my mouth shut.
Andrew's fighter screamed through the upper atmosphere, the disabled Vren ships still drifting in deep space behind him. When he touched down at Point Barrow, the hangar crew didn't cheer. They stood motionless, floodlights cutting sharp shadows. The canopy hissed open. Ground crew backed away. No one met his eyes. Commander Chen was waiting at the edge of the landing pad, tablet in hand, jaw set like iron.
We pulled the audio relay logs, Vance. You broadcast a clear tonal sequence. Explain. Now.
15 fighters. Commander, no way out. I used the only thing I had that wasn't a weapon.
You whistled. Against a direct Concorde order. Do you have any idea what you've done?
She slapped the damage report onto the data pad. 15 enemy ships, no damage, full system failure, unprecedented. 4 hours later, a Concorde cruiser materialized in orbit and hailed the base. Auditor Threx claimed jurisdiction. By the time the alien strode into the command center, Andrew knew this wasn't a debriefing. It was the beginning of a trial. The interrogation room was a square of gray nothing. One harsh light, one metal chair, No windows, no recorders, just the hum of the station. Threx circled Andrew slowly, his lipless mouth a thin line. His vertical pupils never blinked.
You will tell me precisely what sonic weapon you deployed against 3 Concord squadrons, now.
It wasn't a weapon. It was a lullaby. My grandmother used to hum it while she gardened.
A lullaby. You expect me to believe a nursery rhyme disabled 15 fighters? Your species evolved to produce patterned sound. Your military trains for tonal warfare. Don't lie to me.
He's not going to accept this. To him, everything is a weapon.
Andrew's hands rested flat on the cold table. He didn't have a better answer.
I don't know how it works. I just know it saved my life.
Threx's 3-fingered hand slammed the metal. The water cup jumped. Then we will find out, he said. 3 decks below the interrogation cell, researcher Vlex calibrated the neuroimager. A Vren volunteer sat motionless, electrodes fixed to her skull.
Play the full sequence, Auditor. I will monitor neural response.
The 4-bar whistle filled the lab. The volunteer Vren, strapped into the monitoring chair, twitched once, then went rigid.
Pupil dilation erratic. Neural loop detecting. This isn't an attack. The brain is trying to parse a pattern it cannot finish.
Within 4 seconds, the subject's neural activity flatlined completely. Consciousness suspended without physical trauma.
It's a cognitive trap. The melody asks a question the Vren mind cannot stop asking. No species should be vulnerable to a simple tonal loop. This is an evolutionary gap.
So it is a weapon. Unintentional, but lethal to our forces. This cannot be allowed to spread.
It's not a weapon, Auditor. It's a vulnerability. Every human humming, whistling, singing, any child's lullaby could do this.
The lock was real. The mechanism remained a mystery, but the political implications were already tearing at the Concord's foundations. Within hours, the Concord Executive Council convened. The Vren Auditory Council had already filed an emergency session.
The human emission produced a universal neural suspension. Every Vren test subject, regardless of training, froze within seconds.
This was not a weapons test. The pilot was ambushed. He did what any sentient would. He used the only tool he had left.
Intent is irrelevant. The effect neutralizes our entire defense fleet. One human humming could cripple a battlecruiser.
You ask us to criminalize our own biology. Human music is not a weapon. It is a survival signal evolved over millennia.
The chamber erupted. Delegates raised colored panels, motions to classify, motions to suppress, motions to study.
Then we must trace the origin. Open the sealed files. Any previous anomalous human tonal incidents.
A dormant data crystal was retrieved. The file no one had wanted to open in 3 years. The council lights dimmed. Every delegate leaned forward as the seal broke. On the central display, a file name flickered. Incident Sigma, Daycare 7, Station Theta, in his cell. Andrew listened to the distant station hum. No word reached him of the council's debate. A guard spoke through the slot. The auditors were tracing the tune's lineage. They might call his grandmother.
They'll drag her into this. She won't understand why her humming is a crime.
He shut his eyes. The memory of her voice came back whole, the old story she'd told him long ago.
My grandmother used to hum it in the camp. While shells fell, it kept the children quiet. She said it was older than the war. A sound to call the ancestors to watch over us.
It's not a lullaby. It's a thread to everyone who survived before.
The Concord could label it a weapon, but no decree could erase what had been hummed through fire and ash.
I won't let them bury it. If they want the source, they'll have to go through me.
The decision hardened. The tune was ancestral. And he was its guardian now. Late in the station cycle, Vlex came across a buried index line in the Concord archives. Access restricted, Incident Sigma. The screen resolved into a bright daycare room. A small human child sat cross-legged on a mat, humming to herself.
That's the same melodic structure. Identical pattern. This isn't a one-time anomaly.
The feed cut to a Concorde battlecruiser bridge. Every officer slumped unconscious. The captain lay beside his command chair.
They surrendered. A battlecruiser surrendered to a daycare because of a child humming.
The log entry read, "Engaged by unknown sonic pattern. All personnel incapacitated. Source, civilian child, daycare 7.
No weapons, no threats. Just a small voice carrying a question our brains cannot refuse.
Vlex copied the file with trembling hands. The pilot wasn't a rogue attacker. The vulnerability was species-wide.
Auditor Threx needs to see this. The Council must understand the precedent.
He clutched the crystal and moved toward the auditor's quarters, heart pounding with a truth no Vren was ready to hear. Vlex placed the data crystal in Threx's hand without a word. The auditor's quarters were cold and sparse.
Incident Sigma. The file no one wanted opened. What could a daycare possibly have to do with this?
The screen showed a small human girl, no older than 4, humming a simple tune. No malice, no knowledge of the panic it caused. The feed cut to the Concorde battlecruiser. The bridge was a tomb of sitting dead.
A child hummed, and an entire battlecruiser stopped. No orders, no resistance, just silence.
The captain's log was clinical, bewildered. He had no threat to report, only that everyone had simply stopped functioning.
The Council buried this. They didn't understand it, so they silenced the entire species. The pilot Andrew is not a criminal. He's a symptom of a vulnerability we never admitted.
He set the crystal down, the weight of it pressed against his fingers.
For the first time in his career, Auditor Threx did not know what to report.
Before hesitation could root, Threx convened the council again. The crystal was already in the central reader.
Before you judge the human pilot, you will see the precedent. Incident Sigma.
The recording bloomed on the central screen. A 4-year-old human child, cross-legged on a daycare mat, humming a simple tune.
A child. The source of the ban was a child.
The feed shifted. A Concorde battlecruiser bridge. Every officer slumped. The captain lay motionless beside his chair.
A battlecruiser surrendered to a daycare because a human child hummed. No weapons, no threat, just a voice.
The chamber erupted. Delegates raised panels. Shouts in a dozen languages.
The pattern is not a weapon. It is a neurological lock. Any human tonal pattern can trigger it. The pilot Andrew was not an attacker. He was a trigger.
The child's innocent face lingered on the secondary screen. A 4-bar phrase had done what no enemy fleet could. The council now had to choose, admit the vulnerability, or silence an entire species. Ambassador Okoro rose from the human delegation. The chamber was still a storm of shouting delegates.
You cannot punish a species for an involuntary biological reaction. It is no more a weapon than a heartbeat is an attack. The pilot Vance acted in self-defense. He broke no intent. I demand his immediate release.
Intent is not the issue, Ambassador. The effect is, every Vren in audible range is rendered defenseless. We require a containment protocol. The pattern must be restricted.
Contain how? You cannot detain every human grandmother humming in her garden. You cannot ban a brat.
A murmur rippled through the alien delegates. The horrifying scope became clear. Any human anywhere could replicate the effect. Threx's lipless mouth tightened. He saw the logic but could not accept the vulnerability.
Put it to a vote. Release the pilot. Then we negotiate a framework based on reality, not fear.
The council remained deadlocked. Andrew's case had become the test of interstellar law, and no one wanted to cast the first stone. A sealed subcommittee convened. Vren hardliners and Concorde allies behind closed doors. The draft: total suppression of all human tonal sound using neural dampeners. Non-compliance met with military response. Ambassador Okoro received the leaked draft from a sympathetic aide. Her face hardened.
They're not just banning music. They're going to silence every human voice. We have to warn Earth now.
Threx saw the draft. The logic was airtight, but it felt like extinguishing a sun.
The council chamber filled for an emergency vote. The resolution framed human music as a contagion. Delegates raised their panels, but the vote stalled. Factions fractured. No majority could coalesce.
Earth will not accept forced mutilation. You are pushing us toward a conflict none of you can win.
The vote was postponed, but the silence order had been written, and on Earth contingency plans were already stirring. The human delegation realized the ban was never about music. It was about control. On Earth, Commander Chen's screen lit with a Concord ultimatum. Destroy all records of the Vance lullaby and any ancestral tonal patterns, or face immediate sanctions. She found Andrew in a detention annex, not in cuffs, but under guard. The air was thick with the ultimatum's deadline.
They want your grandmother's tune erased, Vance. Every recording, every memory. Earth complies, or we're cut off from the galaxy.
They're not just banning a sound, they're demanding I erase her. That lullaby is older than my grandmother. It's the thread that kept her whole family alive through a war. You can't erase it.
I know. But if we don't, Earth loses trade, defense treaties. We'll be isolated. The decision isn't just yours.
It's her song. She's still alive. Let me talk to her first. She deserves to know what's being asked.
Chen hesitated. The clock was ticking, but Andrew's request was not unreasonable. She nodded. A secure line was opened. Andrew's grandmother, Elara, would hear the ultimatum from the grandson who had broken the silence.
I won't let them bury her song, but right now, I need her voice more than my own.
The secure line flickered to life, and there she was, Elara Vance, silver hair haloed by afternoon light, in her living room.
Andrew, sweet boy, they told me what happened. Your whistle. Is it true?
It saved me, Grandma. But now they want to erase the tune completely.
Erase it? Andrew, that melody kept my grandmother's family alive when shells fell. She hummed it in the camp, kept the children from crying.
She opened the old locket around her neck. A tiny speaker chip, older than memory, woke with a soft gold glow.
My grandmother passed this to me before she passed. It's not just a song. It's a call to all who came before us.
Then it's more than a tune. It's a thread. And I won't let them cut it.
Be careful, love. But if you must fight, fight for the song that kept us alive.
The connection ended. The warm room vanished, leaving Andrew in the cold detention annex.
They can threaten sanctions. They can threaten war. But I will not be the one to drown out that lullaby.
Andrew Vance walked out of the base and into the colony's central square. No one tried to stop him. The evening light turned the sky amber. News drones already circled above, drawn by the crisis.
She said it was a call to the ancestors. Let them hear it one more time.
He pursed his lips, and the first clear note of his grandmother's lullaby rang out over the open square. The 4-bar phrase, simple as breath, repeated once before the crowd understood what it was. A woman in a shawl began to hum the counter-melody, then a vendor, then a soldier, until the lullaby swelled through the square. The news drones captured every note. The broadcast went planetary within minutes. From colony to colony, the melody sparked. Humans around the galaxy stopped to listen, then hummed along.
The tune isn't a secret anymore. The Concord can't erase it without erasing all of us.
The lullaby had become an unkillable thing, and the Concord's ultimatum was already obsolete. On the Concord's central screen, the square on Earth bloomed to life. Andrew Vance whistled his grandmother's lullaby, and the crowd joined in a swelling hum. The chamber fell utterly silent. Vren delegates stiffened as the simple 4-bar phrase echoed through the speakers.
The pattern is out. Every human is a potential trigger. We gambled on fear, and fear lost.
The hardliners who had drafted the silence order stared at the broadcast, their arguments crumbling into irrelevance.
You see now, humanity will not be silenced. You cannot ban a breath. Withdraw the resolution.
Threx finally spoke, his voice carrying none of its earlier authority.
The silence order is unenforceable. I move to table the resolution. This council must find another path.
Without a formal count, the motion carried. The silence order died in the chamber.
Now release the pilot, and let us begin negotiating a future that does not fear a child's hum.
The ban on human music remained Concord law, but in practice, it had been shattered. By one pilot and a tune, his grandmother hummed in a garden. In the quiet that followed the council's collapse, researcher Vlex stepped onto a stage meant for truth, not politics. On the central screen, diagrams of two brains appeared. One human, one Vren, side by side.
Human music evolved as a survival signal, predator warning, tribe locator, a way to keep the group alive through patterned sound.
The human brain pulsed with rich neural networks where melody and pattern were processed. The Vren brain showed only dark gaps.
When a Vren brain encounters a simple tonal loop, it tries to parse it as language and cannot finish. It freezes.
The 4-bar phrase of the Vance lullaby pulsed on screen. For a Vren, a question without end.
Threx, watching from the shadows, understood it was not a weapon. It was an evolutionary blind spot. The pattern weaponizes nothing. It is we who are vulnerable because we never learned to hum.
The study spread across Concord space within a cycle. The fear of human music began, slowly, to be replaced by understanding. The mechanism was finally clear. A 4-year-old child and a grandmother's garden had asked a question Vren neurology could not stop asking. The Concord Council voted to declassify Incident Sigma. The recording would be released with full context.
We owe a child an apology. Lena was not a threat. She was a little girl humming her mother's song.
The old footage played again. Lena at 4, cross-legged on a mat, the same simple tune. But now, a different chair. A comfortable room, not a daycare. Lena, 3 years older, sat calmly.
My mom taught me that song. I hum it when I am happy.
When asked about the battlecruiser, she tilted her head, confused.
The big ship? My teacher said they were just tired. I didn't mean to make them sleep.
The interview looped across Concord space. The fear narrative crumpled.
This is what we protected. Not a weapon, a child.
Sigma stopped being a secret. It became a lesson everyone could finally hear. The Cultural Heritage Hall of Earth Defense Force became a quiet, formal stage. Dignitaries gathered. Cameras live-fed across Concord space. Andrew Vance, in dress uniform, stepped forward. The skull paint was gone, but the same lips that whistled salvation now pressed into a solemn line. The elderly official handed him a rolled document. The golden seal held the words that mattered. Class 1 cultural object, Vance Lullaby.
This isn't just my grandmother's song. It's a signal carried across generations. Now it carries protection.
He kept my garden song alive when they wanted it gone. That's all a grandmother could ask.
Tears carved tracks down her wrinkled cheeks. She did not wipe them away. The document was countersigned by Concord observers. For the first time, human cultural heritage was shielded by interstellar treaty. A biometric box received the original Locket recording. The sealed shelf bore a simple label: Vance Lullaby, Cultural Defense Asset.
My mother would have cried too. A song from a war camp, now protected by the stars.
The ceremony closed softly. No speeches remained, only the quiet certainty that a grandmother's tune had redefined interstellar law. In a secure briefing, Commander Chen presented the concept: not a weapon program, a cultural shield called the Grandmother Corps.
Every ancestral lullaby will be recorded, cataloged. Our grandmothers' voices will form a passive defense network.
The song once hummed under shellfire, keeping children calm, was now a shield. History had come full circle.
Across Earth, elderly women sat for recording. Their voices, carried on simple devices, were filed as strategic assets. The Vance Lullaby was the first entry. Alara's own recording from the Locket became the template for the Corps. The Grandmother Corps was never announced loudly, a quiet acknowledgement that grandmothers were now a strategic reserve.
My grandmother hummed it in a war camp. Now the stars will hum it back. We are the shield.
No Vren child could hum without a twitch, but Earth's grandmothers hummed steadily, and the galaxy listened. No fleet could be defeated by a hum, but every Vren crew now knew confrontation was not worth the question. Earth's grandmothers quietly became a strategic reserve. Months later, on a quiet evening, Andrew sat beside Alara on the porch swing. The garden she had hummed over for decades bloomed around them. Without a word, she began to hum the familiar four-bar phrase. The notes rose soft and steady into the cooling air. Andrew closed his eyes and joined her. Their harmonies wove into the dusk, a duet older than any treaty.
She didn't need to see him. The music said everything they couldn't.
The melody filled the porch, carrying the weight of all that had happened. The ambush, the trial, the child's innocent hum. The sun dipped below the horizon. Stars began to prick the darkening sky. The house behind them glowed warm, and the world felt small again. Above them, the starfield stretched quiet and infinite. The same stars that had almost been silenced by fear. And from the porch, the lullaby drifted upward, a timeless loop that no Vren mind could parse, but every human heart recognized. In the end, the music had won.